Hello, Joshua.
Hello.
I wonder if you could tell us how a person could move from a place of low vitality to optimum vitality. Perhaps a woman in her early 40s who is suffering with low energy levels, feeling stressed all the time, maybe not in an optimal relationship and struggling with work.
Well, the first thing that this particular person needs to be able to bring on to herself is an understanding of that which she desires, that which she wants within her life. And that can only come about when she has some, we would say, seed of consciousness, some understanding of the life that she has created. Now, part of that is taking responsibility for the life that has been created. And without that, then there is, we would say, little chance of this particular person coming to an understanding that there is something different that she desires. There is, of course, at that moment in time when she reflects and sees what she has created, that around her is not what she is resonating with, but there also needs to be that element of responsibility that she needs to take, an understanding or an acceptance that she has created it, that she has allowed herself to draw from a magnetic or polarity perspective. All that is within her life is part of that which is inside of her and is reflecting. That which is outside is the reflection of that which is inside. So it is important that she has some understanding that she needs to look inside to that which she desires.
I presume also she needs to have an understanding that there is another way, that she has choices or that there are options for her.
Well, the choices and the options that come in to that which is her consciousness only does so when consciousness arises, because many people in this particular lifetime are moving through life believing that they do not have choices. It is only through consciously seeing what is occurring within their lives that they are then able to say, well, I can change that. I can have something different, though there needs to be an exploration and a reflection as to how that can actually happen.
So in this case, what would be the steps that you would suggest to her?
Well, in terms of what we would suggest is that there is either some connection between that which is her internal self and that which is her external self, which is being reflected through her life experiences, to the point where either she has moved into crisis where there is, we would say, aspects of her life that are no longer acceptable. That is a normal, or we would say automatic response when there is a stream of thought, where there is a connection to that which is the body language as well, which is saying, we or I do not desire to be in this particular situation any longer. And it will come up through anxiety, it will come up through avoidance, but it is something that arises naturally. But the consciousness itself of that particular individual needs to then connect with the understanding that something can be different. Now, if that is a connection with another person who is pointing out or is guiding, or there is some emergence of the spiritual nature in that individual person that begins to guide, begins to be accepted as the route out of that which she has created, for instance, then there needs to be an allowance or a surrender to following that energy, because it is through following the energy that there will begin to be the changes that manifest through the desire and the intention of changing the life that you are currently leading. So,
as most people probably already observe, it's often crisis that precedes change. So the steps would...
Well, the steps are to recognise that you are in crisis, because what firstly happens is people deny that they are in crisis. They simply continue within the same way of being, in the same relationships, having the same responses, but do not see themselves in it. It is important to come to that position, and we talk about it, self-love, the recognition of self within that which has been created, the life experience that is being gone through, self-love. Once self-love arises, then that is when the transformation can occur. But before that, as you say, the crisis needs to be recognised as a crisis. Even though you use the word crisis, it is simply a state of being in the world where you accept that what is occurring in your life is no longer acceptable, is something else that you desire. So you need to look out for that. There needs to be some trigger point. And once that trigger point has occurred, the next step then is to understand that you are responsible for it. And once you accept you are responsible for it, then you automatically begin to accept that you are responsible for changing it. It is a matter of self-responsibility and self-governance, if you want to use that word. But it is a matter of allowing consciousness to arise, allowing yourself to understand that you love yourself, allowing yourself that you are love, and that through that love, transformation, as we have said, occurs. It is a natural process of that which is the vibrational frequency of the universe.
Because people do often feel very trapped, and in order to break free from certain situations, I find that there is a need to reorganise priorities and change values to certain things. So maybe spending money on higher vibrational foods, for example, rather than certain other activities or, lower vibrational food or alcohol, etc.
Well, that is the truth, because in terms of, as we have said, in terms of how your life manifests, it manifests at the vibrational frequency that you are. But what is important in the initial stages is that the person understands that they are not the physical body, that they are not the mind and the brain mechanism, but they are a vibrational frequency, and that everything that has occurred in their life has been attracted because of their vibrational frequency at that point in their lifetime. So when they understand that, then changing the nature of that which is their vibrational frequency will change the nature of their experience. And so, as you say, when you change who you are in relationship with, when you change from being in the experience or caught in the experience to observing the experience, when you change that which is your diet, when you take on higher vibrational foods, when you are in higher vibrational experiences or situations like being out in nature or being within, for instance, high vibrational sounds and colours, or with animals. That is what we would say is one of the big things, is being in nature, is returning to nature, because that is how this is how this particular person will have been caught within that which is the experience of life. They will have identified themselves as separate from that which is the environment in which they exist. But in fact, they are the environment. They are within it. They are not outside of it. So once there is some acceptance of them being within it, and that they have the ability to shape the environment that is around them through relationships, and it is all about relationships, being in relationship with the self, being in relationship with other people.
Well, that was one thing I wanted to ask you, because often people need to really be working on their self-esteem. Because, for example, this lady could be in a low vibrational relationship, and by that I mean, a relationship with somebody who is not treating her correctly, who may be quite depressed themselves. And I'd be interested to hear what you would say in a situation like that, because there may be even children involved.
Well, in that particular situation, what is important is still this recognition of self within the context of the experience. That is the primary factor. Now, when you start to look at the various different aspects of the life you have created, there are some which you have become attached to, some that you are perhaps addicted to, whether that might be food for a particular reason, in terms of comforting yourself to protect yourself from that which is the experience that you have created. It is a difficult situation where you are talking about being in a relationship you do not wish to be in, when you are talking about having children within that relationship that you have responsibility for. What is important is to connect with yourself first. We are not saying walk away from the relationship. We are not saying walk away from the children. But it is a matter of reorganisation in terms of that which is what you have put in place from a vibrational frequency perspective. Change only comes about from change. So the important aspect for this particular person is to identify what needs to be changed. And it's not just what needs to be changed outside, within that experience, but what needs to be changed inside. And it may be the point of view. It may be the beliefs that this person has had. It may be that where they come from, they are simply mirroring in their own environmental experience that which their mother and father, for instance, had as their lifetime. But it is important that once it is established that you have the ability, or she has the ability, to create something different, you are right in terms of looking at what the different aspects of the life she has created, prioritising them. Of course, children are always the priority because of the responsibility that adults have for the welfare and care of children.
Yes.
But in terms of what is available, then looking out into the environment as to what is then available to her in order to help her change the nature of her beliefs, change the nature of her self-esteem, change her confidence, bring courage into that which is her vibrational frequency range, to then be able to stand up and say to whether it is the partner or whether it is to other people that are in her life that are causing her difficulty, this is not how I wish to live my life. There is a consciousness around what is desired and what is not desired, and that is where the choice, as you sometimes refer to it, arises, where you can then say, I can either do this or I can remain where I am. From a vibrational frequency perspective, then there has to be some movement of energy, there has to be some action. Of course, action only comes through consciousness.
What would you say might happen if this lady starts working on herself and doing these things that you suggest, and starts to feel better about herself, has more courage and more self-esteem and self-love? What would you anticipate happening sort of in her external environment?
Well, there is no anticipation. What will happen when she raises her vibrational frequency is that the experiences that she is having at that particular point in time before she raised her vibrational frequencies will begin to drop away. What will occur, for instance, if she is in a low vibrational relationship and she begins to raise her vibrational frequency out of that vibrational frequency range within the relationship, then that relationship will begin to fall away if the person that she is in relationship with does not recognise that there is a change taking place and that there needs to be a change taking place in them as well. Part of the consciousness of the lady or the woman that is in that particular scenario is to understand that if she raises her vibrational frequency, then there may be some thought or some desire to raise the vibrational frequency around those that are within her family, for instance, because that is what will happen. If all of the family raises its vibrational frequency, then they will stay together. But if the vibrational frequency is only changed from that within one particular person, then they will begin to move away. They will begin to disblend from that which is the group or family blended energy and create something and start to attract other aspects or other experiences in life. So it is important to have, again, some conscious awareness that when you change your vibrational frequency, it does not mean other people change their vibrational frequency unless you are communicating at the same time, unless you are speaking the truth about what is occurring within the nature of yourself and what you have created.
And in that instance, you could actually inspire your partner or some of your friends to look inside themselves at the same time, and you could work together.
Well, that is it. Inspiration, whether it comes from yourself or whether it comes from someone, is what creates the movement, because the inspiration is a direct changing, a direct understanding of the circumstances that you find yourself in.
So the main message that I'm hearing from you in this instance is that each individual needs to take responsibility for themselves and prioritise their own vibrational frequency, really. And by doing that, they will start to attract much more enjoyable experiences, much more fulfilling and perhaps life-enhancing experiences to themselves.
Or life-enhancing experiences, that is what it is. It is important, and we would always come back to this question, and it is the question that each individual should ask themselves, whether they are in crisis or not, is what is it that you want in your life? What is it that you desire? And even in that scenario that we are talking about, the woman who is perhaps of a low vibrational frequency still has that ability at any vibrational frequency to ask that question, because that is where it begins. If the question is not asked, even if it is just a thought, it may be that someone asks her the question. And of course, if that question is asked, then the seed is planted, because what will then occur is the energy around the nature of that question, what is it that I want, will begin to emerge. And what is out there in terms of her external environment will begin to come into focus, because many people will move through life out of focus. The experiences are foggy. They do not really understand what is occurring. They are perhaps simply there in the experience, caught up in it, without that feeling of being able to remove themselves. But when that question is asked, either by themselves or by somebody else of them, what is it that you want? That is the beginning of the raising of the vibrational frequency and the level of consciousness around what you have created to create something different.
Wow. Thank you very much, Joshua.
You're welcome.
Wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your guidance.